There's a very interesting movie that came out very recently. A small reference to the partition of East India. That partition is ignored in the history books. It remains as a memory.
It is bound to happen that Hindus will lose their ground. Muslims living around thousands of Hindus may not have the same fate as a Hindu living among 1,000 Muslims around. If you're talking about the Hinduness of somebody who is sitting in the northeast, that Hindutva would be very different, or Hinduness would be very different from somebody sitting in Gujarat.
What the women went through. In the case of Bengal, obviously there have been very violent, very brutal incidents that have happened throughout the history. So where is the average woman placed in this entire episode?
The houses that were burned down, who were those people? Perhaps we will never know the name. But how the things changed once few of them made their way into the Hindustan. Things were not rosy either.
There's also this internal hypocrisy that we have. If the Dalai Lama or Tibetans come somewhere, but if a group of Bengali Hindus from Bangladesh come, they're not okay with it.
Yes.
Jharkhand doesn't want them, Uttar
Yes.
Pradesh doesn't want them, no other state will welcome them.
If I want to strip somebody of their religion or tradition, the first thing what I will do, I will slowly talk about their eating habits. The second, I will get into the clothing. Third, I will hit on their language. The moment you remove all these things, you have nothing left in the culture. Your humanitarian quotient would reflect the best when you can really be open to welcome Hindus into your place at the most needed of us.
There's a very interesting movie that came out very recently, Main Vaapas Aaunga, directed by the famous director Imtiaz Ali. Somewhere in between, a small reference goes out to the partition of East India, East Bengal as well. That partition is ignored in the history books. It remains as a memory. It remains as a generational memory for people living both now in the eastern part and in West Bengal. But whereas there have been many books written on the partition of, say, Punjab, partition of India, so to speak, I requested our good friend Aabhas Maldahiyar, who is a historian and an architect by profession, to basically join us and discuss the partition of East Bengal, which has not been discussed a lot on podcasts, and especially there's not a lot of literature on it. So if I were to ask you, how is it very different? Because obviously both have communal undertones. But obviously the partition of Bengal somewhere has not been addressed in terms of literature. It remains more as personal memory. So, and Bengalis being the crowd that devoutly consuming movies and books, why has this not been captured in the national memory?
I am somebody who comes from a small town called Hazaribagh in Jharkhand. The place which is very close to Bengal.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of Bengali family friends there who had their roots in East Bengal. The initial interactions, whatever we had with them, and that was of course my childhood, so I'm sure the versions which I would be told would be a bit censored version. It would be a bit filtered version. Yet I could see that they have some pain underlying within them. They see a sense that they wanted to go back there. That sense of belonging is still very much there. They had the longing for it. But I could never understand this in childhood. And what really makes the tragedy of East Bengal a little different from Northwest, or say what becomes Punjab, Pakistan today, is this, that while the Northwest was always the frontier for the invasions, invasions happened.
Correct.
It started with 7th, 8th century, it went 9th, 10th, continued. And for the first time, the Delhi Sultanate sat over there in the north, and then we had finally the Timurid Empire, headed by Babur and so on and on. And then the sequence of invasion stopped.
Mm.
Of course, there were Abdalis, etc., who kept coming, but still the sequence of invasion stopped. Now, coming to the eastern part, they were being ruled by the people who were sitting there in Delhi. So the Timurids or the Mughals also had the control. So there's always a difference between an invasion and a well set up system.
Mm.
I'm not saying that it was all hunky dory, it was all great, but still the onslaught of invasion is way more devastating than what you see in a settled rule by the invaders per se.
Mm.
Now, while the invasions have happened in the north, the people are carrying those scars. They are still continuing. While many are carrying the scars, many have begun to live with the Stockholm syndrome. They believe that whatever happened to their ancestors were great.
Mm.
And that's why the idea of partition was also being brewed when it all started by Sir Syed Ahmad, who is the founder of Aligarh Muslim University.
Right. Mm.
Now, he is seen as somebody who was a great educationalist, etc., but he had laid the foundation of the two-nation theory.
Mm.
Long before Savarkar would have uttered in public saying that, okay, I also see that there are two nations. But while Savarkar was perceiving it, the two nations to stay together, Sir Syed Ahmad was very much clear that the two separate nations and they are to live apart.
Right.
Upon which later on Iqbal, the writer of the poem Sare Jahan Se Acha,
Mm.
he built on this, and later on Muhammad Ali Jinnah further picks it up vehemently. But while everything was cooking in the north was the place where the planning strategy, everything happened.
Mm.
Repercussions happened worst in the east because they were not the planners, but they were the executioners at the worst.
Okay.
And because when you see that, when you see it day by day, that what's happening, somehow north was very well prepared for the partition.
Mm.
East was not so well prepared for the partition.
Is it because of geography that it was disconnected?
Yes, it is of course because of geography. Disturbances were there, but still, when you see that the movement is brewing, say in Aligarh, movement is brewing in Lucknow, movement is brewing in whole of the Uttar Pradesh and the nearby areas, you see the repercussions, you feel it.
Mm.
But the movement was not so vehement in the eastern part of India back then.
Mm.
And so people were not very much prepared for this. Though there was a fractions like Hindu Mahasabha who were doing the movement to ensure that Hindustan is never partitioned. In fact, in Dhaka there were processions which were going on to say that Akhand Hindustan, not Akhand Bharat, Akhand Hindustan ki baat hum karenge. We can't have Hindustan partition. So some smoke was coming this side as well, but it was more from the point of view that they wanted to preserve the integrity of Hindustan
Right.
entirely.
Because the idea of East Bengal never existed. to
Yes,
them. Yeah.
and East Bengal is basically that part which is the root of Hindutva per se, or Hindu nationalism.
Okay.
That's where, and
Can you explain?
yes, very, very much. Yeah. Hindu nationalism definitely finds the roots in East Bengal. And why I say East Bengal? Because East Bengal was all about the rural setup, the rivers, you can say the traditions, etc. That's where the East Bengal is about. Now, when Bankim Chandra is writing the Anand Math, he's speaking about when you read the poem Vande Mataram, there's a lot of reference to flora, fauna, why he's talking about the rivers, etc. All these things are very much existing. And where these references are coming from? These references are coming from eastern part of Bengal.
Mm-hmm.
And all the great revolutionaries and all the great Hindu nationalists happen to come from that region, and who observed what is the importance of Hindu nationalism. And while Bengal gave the shape, or I would say that there was an abstract idea of motherland. There was an abstract idea. But this abstract idea was further taken ahead by the Bengalis when they came up the idea of she's the mother goddess,
Hmm.
and that's what we see in Vande Mataram poem, where she's manifested as the mother goddess Durga. She's seen as Saraswati. She's seen as every form of Devi.
Hmm.
And Bengal is a land which worship the Shakti
Yeah.
worshipping. So while Shakti worshipping is there, it definitely means that they are entangled with the idea of worshipping the mother.
Hmm.
And when you worship the mother, that's where the masculinity, again, for the lack of vocabulary, I am bound to use this word. The masculinity is definitely something which um, they aspired to have. Because if you want to fight the enemies, you need to be masculine. You want to throw them out.
Hmm.
And Vande Matra, the Anandamath is all about how to really get motherland protected from the invaders or the people who don't belong here.
Hmm.
That idea is very much there. The same idea is further taken ahead. And when you see the writings of every Bengalis, they are too curious to see motherland as being the factor. Though Rabindranath Tagore once said that he had problem with the nationalism, but his way to look at Bengal, he had problem with the Western nationalism,
Hmm.
but the way he perceived the whole idea of worshipping your motherland as Bengalis had been doing, this is something which he never got away
Had a
with.
problem with.
Yeah, he never had a problem with. He was
Hmm.
all way with it, because there's a difference between, there's a very strong distinction. That strong distinction is, while whole of the world loves their nation, we worship our nation.
Right.
There's a difference.
We see it as a sacred sanctity.
Yes, we see it as sacred sanctity. And
Ah.
definitely, when you are applying a Western nationalism and when you see the indigenous nationalism of India,
Right.
they will have a difference, because you have this nationalism for somebody whom you see as a deity, whom you see as so sacred.
Correct. So, which is why, like our good friend Kushal Mehra says, you need to burn the flag and everything.
Yes.
We disagree with those ideas because we still see that we see it associated with the daily life, with like the cultural ethos of the land. So it's very difficult to sort of explicitly display that discontent against
Yes,
say the flag or national anthem or
Yes.
anything else.
we cannot. And so, because Shakt was a very important factor,
Hmm.
and the Shakt tradition which drove the idea of fighting the enemies
Yeah.
very strongly. And Hindu nationalism was nothing but, as it came from Bengal, it was about the moment you are, because the spirit to fight for the motherland or to see motherland as sacred is the Hindu ethos by default.
Hmm.
Definitely, it cannot be ethos of the other religion, because it was never there.
So, did Bengali nationalism have any element of Hindutva in it or not?
Yes, it had. And Hindutva, again, can be defined in multiple ways, because when in 1892, Chandranath Basu came up with his book of Hindutva, the Treatise of Hindutva, where it was very much on a traditional perspective. He spoke about, he was a hardcore traditionalist. That again may not go down well with how Savarkar perceives it.
Okay.
Right. Savarkar. So Hindutva essentially was always seen as a word. Hindu plus Twa. It means that the way people wanted to define the Hinduness, they use their multiple ways to define what the Hindutva can be, and it cannot be one frozen idea that this is the Hindutva, because Hindu plus ism itself is so diverse.
Hmm.
It is so diverse. So if you say that, if you're talking about the Hinduness of somebody who is sitting in the northeast or eastern part, right, we are talking about, that Hindutva would be very different, or Hinduness would be very different from somebody sitting in Gujarat.
Hmm.
Like, for example,
Correct.
a Brahmin might be eating fish in the eastern belt, but that might not be the case in the central India.
Correct.
Again, the geographies, the traditions define what your Hinduness is.
Hmm.
So that's why even the Hindutva / Hinduness cannot be confined into a certain way. And so, while Bankim Chandra came up with the idea of Hindu nationalism through his work Anandamath in 19th century, as the days goes ahead and as we walk into 20th century, people have realized and understood that it has to be given some undertone of what you can say is something which is away from tradition,
Hmm.
which is essentially about political. It gets political connotations too, because they are fighting political Islam,
Hmm.
and that's where you will surprised to hear that once Rabindranath Tagore, after the Mopla genocide had happened
Yeah,
down in
Kerala.
south, he did said that I do see the fear, and I see that the Hindu mothers need to make their children strong enough so that they don't get humiliated by the Muslims in the days to come. So this is what Rabindranath Tagore is
So he
saying.
foresaw this.
Yeah, he foresaw it, and he in fact went far ahead, and he said that there are only two religions who have hatred for every other religion. He spoke about the Christianity and Islam. Now,
Right.
this is Rabindranath Tagore, who is seen as a great imagery of secularism. He is carried as a mascot of Bengal in the point of view where the people want to talk about the syncretism. But here he is Rabindranath Tagore forewarning people that what is there in the other religions, you have to be prepared to protect yourself.
So he was not just an idealist as he was portrayed,
Yes.
but he was a realist. He saw what was coming.
Yes, he saw it coming, and definitely, you see,
Which was the period in which he wrote a lot of these things? Was it prior to 1905?
no, after it.
After it.
After it. It's in 1915 onwards.
Right.
Yes.
So once that the incident happened, he knew that, it would continue. It would
Yes.
lead to something.
Yes. So,
The other interesting thing is that the idea of Bhasha and Bari. Please forgive me, like I'm not a Bengali, so I'm trying my best
Basa
to.
and Bari.
Yeah, Basha and Bari. So Basha has two connotations. One is that the memory of home is Basha, or home is called
Basa,
Basha.
Basa, it's Basa.
Basa.
Like you would have heard the term Marwadi Basa.
Ah.
Okay. So Marwadi Basa is a place where you go and eat the Marwadi food, etc. But actually, this is Basa comes from.
So I'm more
Yeah.
curious about how um, the elements of partition are interacting with each other, especially because religion becomes the central key to, say, the partition of Western India. But here there is both religion and language and somewhat of cultural differences. So walk us through this.
So it's interesting because Basa is a place where you stay for a while.
Hmm.
Okay. You are staying, but you still don't see it as a place which is related to your ancestors.
Okay.
And Bari is something which people always relate to, a place which has
Ancestral
got
memory.
connection with the ancestors.
Right.
So even if you don't have a four walls, but you will always say that my Bari is
Or like what we call a native place.
native place. It's
area.
always like that. And
Okay.
so everybody is more connected to Bari
Hmm.
than to Basa, because Basa may be a rented space. Basa can be, it is a possibility that Bari can be a rented space too.
Hmm.
Because say that if somebody is living across generations in a particular house, which was rented out, but they have done everything, all the 16 sanskar, right from Garvadan to the Namakaran to Chudaka, everything goes till Antyeshti. Everything happened in that house. So you have that ancestral memory, and that connects you to Bari. And this is, of course, a Bengali term, but we have this understanding across the world. When I say across the world, I am very serious about it, because when you talk to the Europeans, a lot of Europeans, they will also be very curious about what is their homeland.
Hmm.
Or more than homeland, what is where they come from. Like the Celts very much see that they are a Celtic people.
Right.
The a person from Germany is very much sure where he comes from, and that's why all this problem of Nazism, etc., also had begun. But larger picture which I am trying to portray here is, you always get connected to your ancestral home. You always get connected to the place where you have lived your time with your grandmother. Like I still recall wherever I would be, and in fact, all my book acknowledges my grandmother, where I speak about. I learned the art of storytelling from her, while she would narrate the Ramcharitmanas to me, while I'll sit beside her. All these memories, whether my father is taking me upstairs and showing me the Saptarishi, the seven sages, in the sky, etc. So all these memories, these Bengalis were also carrying.
Right.
And when you speak to the Bengalis of 50s, 60s, and the 70s, or say 80s, 90s, everyone will be constantly talking about their Bari being somewhere down there in the east,
Hmm.
uh, uh, East Bengal.
Hmm.
They were still very much connected to it.
Maybe Imtiaz Ali is also from Jamshedpur, which is why he
Yes.
feels is much closer. In
Yes.
fact, I'm curious why he didn't work on something on, like the Eastern Partition.
Yes.
That would be a fantastic subject for a study.
That's a very fantastic subject, and I would say that Vivek opened the door for what it was, but there is a lot to it. There are layers of nostalgia, there are layers of.
But why has Noakhali received that? I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's so many other elements which have gone missing. So why the focus on like certain events, especially when we look at Bengal Files and other movies?
So it's important to, if you want to say that a student is sitting in the class, he's not attentive, and you see him, he's dozing off, right? What you will do, a teacher might do immediately throw a chalk, is that please wake up.
Yeah.
So all these films are like a wake up call,
Right.
because what this has done is that, of course, there was a lot of debate that there are more angles, why this angle is not addressed, and so you have just got 150 odd minutes to show something. And again, till the time Vivek addressed this, even Noakhali was very much unaddressed.
Yeah.
If you talk to people in the north, they will have no clue what was happening in East Bengal. They had no clarity. They did not know that what, in fact, East Pakistan, the instance of Noakhali was filled with the instances of making sex slaves as well, which is a very medieval practice. But it happened there. There were forced conversions, rampant forced conversions, etc. And Noakhali played a very important role, where, in fact, Gandhi had to realize also later on that something went wrong there. And it was all a process, because Calcutta killing was not much spoken about, because there comes a man, the big masculine Bengali Gopal Patha, whom we adorably call, but
Yeah.
the Gopal Patha was someone who turned the fate. It started on 16 till 17. It was almost like Hindus will flee Kolkata. 18 onwards, he, along with two other friends, organized the butchers and whoever were in the circle. He was known as Patha because in Bengal, in eastern part, we called the goat as Patha.
Okay.
So because he had a business of the meat, the jhatka meat, he was popularly known as Gopal Patha.
Okay.
So many people say that it was a slang for him. No, it was not exactly a slang, because it's a very there's always a concert or dak naam or pukaru naam which happens in eastern part.
Right.
You will see some very strange kind of name given to the people.
Yeah.
So he was Gopal Patha. He took it up, and the things changed. And 18 to 20, things flipped. Then Shoravardi goes on to plead Gopal, and okay, then he puts the weapon. Then he says that first Muslims have to put the weapon, which happened, and things got pacified. Later on, Gandhi goes there and asks everybody to put the weapons, but Gopal says that even if a nail has been used to preserve the sanctity and honor of a Hindu woman or a girl, I am not going to give away that nail as well. So that was a Gopal Patha. So that's the reason why this chapter is not much spoken about the great Calcutta killings, while you speak about what happened after that, right? So that's again a very, because here
Even what you were telling is that we discuss about how Bengal is the land of Shakti and all of that, but the masculinity of Bengal is like taken away as a consequence.
Yes.
Even the the story that you were telling me about how akhadas are present and how constable recruitments is happens on that ABC de facto. It's very interesting. You should tell our viewers.
So it was so Bengal was definitely the land of the warriors. It was ruled by the Pals, the Palas, the Senas, etc. They had their own. Bengal has its own history of being the land of the warriors, and this is a land which worshipped Kali Mata. And when you worship the Kali Mata is considered as the very ferocious Devi. and of course the tantra, etc. Many things are involved there. Now they worship Durga Mata. They worship all the forms of goddesses, and all the forms of goddesses give you different kind of attributes. Like you worship Ma Bharati or say Ma Saraswati. Actually, Ma Saraswati's other name is Ma Bharati as well. You worship Ma Saraswati as she gives you the knowledge.
Yeah.
And in eastern part, we have a tradition of, we say, Khalli Chuana. Chuana matlab touch karana, and Khalli is the chalk.
Okay.
So it's on the Saraswati Puja where the child starts his journey of writing. So they will write in front of the goddess Saraswati. So that's how I gained the knowledge from her, and I'm blessed that to be. Now other goddesses, Durga Devi, whom we worship for 9 days, and that again is the we invoke the Devi in the form of somebody who slayed the demons like Mahishasur, right? Shumb and Nishum were killed. So now here we are talking about a Devi who slaughtered the wrongdoers, right? Then we worship the Kali Mata. Again, the Kali Mata is somebody who is a very ferocious one, and there's a reason the way she is represented also holds a very strong connotation. Now, the people who are worshipping all these attributes, of course, they will be great in literature. They will be great in anything what has to do with the knowledge. So they excelled there. They were great in the tradition of the Shakti, as in the warring, in the tradition of really practicing the martial arts, etc. They had their own form of doing so. But comes the era of 20th century, because British takeover is very strong there, and also somehow the Hinduness has lost its own ways. That's the reason why just before the 20th century, 19th century, people are trying multiple ways to revive Hinduism, whether you see Brahmo Samaj. Now today there can be a criticism of Brahmo Samaj where people will criticize that they were not doing this right, etc., etc. But the fact is that Bengal really was going through a phase where Hinduism was almost dead, because there was a young Bengal movement just in that era, led by a man named Derozio. And in the young Bengal movement, it was a woke movement, almost like a woke movement, where if you carry brandy on your head and beef, you are considered progressive. So you will carry a brandy, bottle of a brandy and a beef. That means that you are a progressive. So that was a young Bengal movement. What it had done is that it had somehow uprooted will be a bit harsher word, but somehow Hinduism had become a very weak factor in Bengal. And everyone was trying their best to revive Hinduism the way they could. By the 20th century, the situation is very tough, because for Hinduism at least, because people are engrossed in fighting the British, and when they are fighting the British, they are, of course, have the associates from the Muslim sides, and the idea of secularism or syncretism, which starts to churn in Bengal for a while, where people feel that everybody is one because we are fighting a common enemy, who are the British. And that's where the narrative also starts brewing up. That Battle of Plassey is a very interesting point, though. In Battle of Plassey, we always see that Siyad-ud-Dawla as somebody who was fighting for us.
Yeah.
And that's how. But Jagat Seth is again a designation, right?
He was a financier for...
Yes.
Right.
So Jagat Seth and a lot of Hindus, and Mir Jafar, who was often humiliated by Siyad-ud-Dawla, choose to side with British, because Siyad-ud-Dawla was a very atrocious man. He committed a lot of atrocity. He was sadist, and he was pervert. He would pick the daughters from the houses of anybody, and even he picked once he picked the daughter of Jagat Seth as well. So he would take pleasure in drowning the people into the river. He would just see the spectacle that while the people are being drowned. So he was a sadist by nature. And when you see that such a sadist is ruling you, you tend to feel that, can we get rid of them? But Bengalis were not knowing that by removing one of the evil, they are bringing a bigger evil, who were the British. But so they somehow felt that, okay, Britishers are going to be good people, but the things became even worse for the Bengalis. And from 20th century, the story or the narrative of Siyad-ud-Dawla being a martyr for the cause of fighting against the British became very popular. And in the Bengal psyche, it was always there, the Hindu Muslims are going to be together, and religion, etc., are not the thing to be so focused on. So that's why you see that communism brewing a lot in Bengal. It has become a very dominant force. And of course, initially the communists are very much.
It's more of a convenient distraction at that time.
Yes.
Because you needed something to bind communities together to
Yes.
take on the British.
Yes. And not only Bengal, look at Maharashtra as well. In fact, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, when he wrote his book on 1857, he praises the Hindu-Muslim unity, where people are fighting together to overthrow the demon British. Even Savarkar is praising it. Only when Savarkar went to the Kala Pani, where he saw what was happening inside the jail, like conversions were being done by the inmates, etc. So those things really moved him. He heard about the Mopla genocide, etc. So things begin to change in the minds of Savarkar. So people were going through the churn, but what Savarkar saw, necessarily other revolutionaries did not see. So even when you see the initial days of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose as well, he is very secular, right? And but we have to give it to the Netaji that he was such a great leader that even after the independence, those who went to the Pakistan also saw Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in utmost respect.
Right.
He was a man who could mobilize Hindu-Muslim equally to fight for a common cause. More than Gandhi, I see that Netaji was able to do it way more better.
So I'm very curious.
Yes.
In the modern Bangladesh's memory, how do they have a place for people like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Rabindranath Tagore? Tagore is in the news of late. But
Yes.
do tell us, like, how is it in public memory and how is it in institutional memory of Bangladesh?
So Tagore was never seen in great light in East Bengal after the partition, or say after 1947 for sure. But whatever you saw was the facade, because they adopted the national anthem, which was written by Rabindranath Tagore, etc. Yeah. So all those things are there. But now let me give you a bit of background. We all are very much fond of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, right? Now Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is always seen as somebody who stood as a secularist, etc., etc. But while this direct action day was happening, the program manager of Shoravardi, who was he? He was the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He was the main man behind organizing everything what Shoravardi did on the stage, right? And after that, whatever happened, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was a very important man in it, right? So, of course, later on when the elections do happen and he wins, but despite that, Pakistanis, as in the West Pakistan, does not treat him as a leader enough. And that's when he gets a reality check and nothing changes. So, in fact, till 1960s and 1970s, there was always a Hindu-Muslim angle, which was very much there, because first partition happens in 1947. After the 1950, we see that there is a disturbances which continues and continues. In 1964, again a big genocide happens of the Hindus, etc. Then further it continues. What we see in 1970 and 71, Hindus are massacred like anything. But Sheikh Mujibur Rahman chose to become a bit secularist, a bit you can say a very very democratic by thought, because it was more of a thought of, I would say, convenience. It was also about perhaps, I don't know whether he did some retrospection, what went through. Perhaps we can never know this. But his initial action definitely tell you that the founding fathers or the leaders of Bangladesh, or so East Pakistan per se, in the initial days, they were not somebody who were very pro-Hindu people. They were not. And later on, when the in 1964, 63, 65, the language movement happened in Bangladesh. Of course, that time it was dominated by ultra progressive people over there. That's fine. But while that happened, even after 1971, even during 1971, there were people who fought by the side of Pakistan but were living in today's Bangladesh. They sided with Pakistan, and those forces again became dominant of late, what you see when you see that what's happening in Bangladesh, they're the same force which are always pro-Pakistan. And in such a place, you can never have the place for people like Rabindranath Tagore because A, he's a kafir. Let us be very clear. If there's an Islamic Republic or Islamic State, you cannot expect that a kafir will be treated in utmost dignity. That's why the statue was defiled and the things were done. They have no place for anybody who comes from. And in fact, one very interesting
Do
example.
they also have like a hatred towards Bengali and
Yes.
affinity towards Urdu?
Yes, they had no love for Bengali as a language, which you saw as a common binding force in during the Bangladesh Liberation War, because it's all about Islam. Because it always follows with the idea that there are three worlds. There is Darul Harb, there is Darul Islam, and there is Darul Sulah. Darul Sulah, where you are just midway through, where you just come up with an agreement till your majority increases, and then you fight to establish Darul Islam. That's the doctrine with which the Islamic world works.
Correct.
Yep.
Very interesting. We went through a lot of literature, and I'm trying to establish how the partition, how East Bengal's partition was different from the West. And the distinction especially becomes very visible in, please correct me if I'm wrong, Chere Ashagram. So it's Abandoned Village in translation. It's a collection of essays which were originally published by a Bengali newspaper called Jugantar from 1950 onwards. And so these were basically like contribution of essays from anonymous sources, but these were all Bengali Hindu refugees who came from the eastern part to the west. And they account a lot of things. And the confusion is like, I'll just read out a few quotes from this, and that shows like what was going through in their mind, right? How could that land become somebody else's forever? Just one line drawn on the map, and my own home becomes a foreign country. Again, this is also quite similar to the Western partition as well, and quite similar to the East. But what is more shocking is that suddenly the familiarity that you had with your neighbor becomes an element of foreignness, right? You're no longer connected with your Bari, as you rightly said. And my home is in a country to which I have no relation. The house is there, the village is there, the property exists, but I'm homeless today. What happened was beyond the comprehension of ordinary human beings. By the time they could even form an idea of the situation, the destruction was complete. So, tell us about what happened after the partition of India, the events leading up to 1971, the episodes where there were, like forced migrations out of East Pakistan, East Bengal, or even Bangladesh today. And why today, when say there is a political debate around, even when the Bengal elections happened, it was almost like people were celebrating on the streets. Like we knew that there was frustration, there was like anti-establishment, anti-incumbency. We understand that at a regional level, but it was almost like they got freedom. They were celebrating on the streets. So obviously this has a really old baggage that comes with it. And even today, like some of the hardcore communist friends that I have in Guwahati, for example, are with Mamaji because they're all about like we've experienced what happens when like immigration happens, illegal immigration happens, and we don't care whether it is about Hindutva or anything else. We will vote for the person who is against this. And that has become somewhat of a baseline for like Bengali Assami politics over there.
So it's a very nuanced question, Sharan, and why I say it nuanced because it comes with two layers. The two layers are, fortunately, Hindu-Muslim. When the migrants are coming, they can be Hindu, they can be Muslim.
Yeah.
Now that's where it becomes nuanced, more thing which needs a lot of thought than an immediate reaction which people often give.
Okay.
Now, when partition happened, a lot of people came from Punjab, right?
Yeah.
Trains भर के आती थी वगैरह सब कुछ चल रहा था, and exchanges were there. Of course, it was accompanied with a lot of violence. The gory, I think that's human civilization has witnessed. That was the worst witnessed violence ever.
Hmm.
East also had the same fate.
Hmm.
While in 1947 it began, it did not stop there because the trains were stopped in 1950s, which used to go to Lahore and Punjab.
Yeah.
But यहाँ पे वैसा नहीं था.
The trains have become the center wagon of imagination. But
Yes.
in the case of Bengal, it was not there.
Yes.
So it's different. Yeah.
Yes. So that in the northwestern part, the story was very different. Train stopped and things are gone, done. In Bengal, the borders were still very porous.
Correct.
People would come and with a hope that they will return back.
Right.
Yes, there was always a hope that we are going to come back. This is just a temporary because it's fine. And there were generations which had seen the last level of atrocity what they saw of the Islamic world was during the Siradollah period. After that, it was the British. So their interaction with the Islamic fanaticism was not that great as was of the west and
Northwest, yeah.
northwest. Because it continued and continued.
Is there some class divide or a communal divide between eastern and the western parts even before the partition happened? Because we see a lot of references even today among my Bengali friends, like if one guy is like looking a little short and like lean, they call him Bangal.
Yes.
There is that sort of a divide as well.
Yes.
So tell us about some of the insecurities that existed at that time, because even today, from when I speak to my friends in Dhaka, for them they see Kolkata as a place of aspiration, where they can come, they can shop, they can study and do things like that. So in the average, even the modern Bangladeshi's eye, I think West Bengal is an aspirational place to be.
Yeah. So, see, the point you was making is about aspiration. Okay. These are two distinct things. You can aspire to have a better lifestyle. You can aspire to get a better job. But you don't aspire for survival. You just desire to survive.
Yeah.
So that's a very strong distinction. So for all these refugees in that era, like till Bangladesh Liberation War, till after that too, for which we brought in the law of CAA, etc., when these all things happened, their quest was more for survival. So all these refugee accounts, what you read, see, somebody sitting in Dhaka today can aspire to go to Kolkata for medical facilities, can aspire to go for better job prospects. This can be there. But what these refugees were going through was something unprecedented. And one more point, what you had brought up while you posed this question about that even in, say, Assam, there is a problem that they always fear the migrants would be coming. Now, once we make the secularization of these migration, when you say that religion is completely out of this aspect of migration, migrant is a migrant, I see that there is a problem. I strongly believe that we as the state of Bharat or state of India have our moral responsibility to take care of all the Hindus across the world, because Hindus have no state to go anywhere. They just can't go. So if, say, tomorrow any state decides that you can't practice your religion, you can't, and in fact there is a soft persecution with which starts, where shall they go? Hindustan, Bharat happens to be their natural homeland to come back. So that's the reason why I often have this disagreement with a lot of my Assamese friends as well, many times. And you would have heard this sentiment through them, many of them, that for them migrant is a migrant. Whether it's a Hindu, it doesn't matter. Who is a Muslim, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? But I see that, like looking at Israel as a model state who deals with their people so well, I see that India should adapt this policy. It should take care of the people, whoever come from the Indic tradition, whether it's Hindus, the Buddhists, the Sikh, the Jain.
And obviously they're under persecution.
Yes, they're under persecution.
Muslims are not under persecution.
Yes.
They're in a healthy a minority majority. If
Exactly.
I may call it. Yeah.
So there was an instance when during the 1949 or 50s, So the mosque and the houses were vacant because the Muslims had gone to Pakistan.
Hmm.
So when Sardar Patel proposed that now the Hindus are being persecuted and they are coming back, can we give those houses to them?
Hmm.
Nehru was perplexed and he said that no, that's not the right way. Those places can remain empty. And his point was that this is a Muslim area.
Hmm.
How can you inhabitate a Muslim area with the Hindus? And these all come through the official records and letters. These are not made up cock and bull stories. So somehow India has been very secular to deal with the migrant problem, which is not the right way to deal with it, because migration is often because of religious persecution, and when religious persecution is involved, the result cannot be secular.
Which is why there is a very strong resonance with CA and RC in some
Yes.
parts of India, while the other parts of India oppose it.
Yes.
What was it like for the Muslims on one side of Bengal and the other side of Bengal? Even today, when we look at, if we discuss economy, businesses are another thing. Like the Assamese Muslims, what we were discussing. Badruddin Ajmal is one example, but look at the empire he runs. They have political representation, they have businesses, they have all sorts of things, they have enterprise going very well for them. But at the same time, you saw a slow disenfranchisement of the average Bengali businessman in Bangladesh. Right,
Yes.
like the Hindu businessman.
Yes.
So, was there like a systematic attempt to sort of, separate them from the state?
As I said in the initial remark, there is always a ongoing project which runs, and seldom we Hindus realize this. That project is Islamikaran, ya Islamization, which is the target for which uh, a lot of organizations of Islam literally work day in day out. That's the purpose. Now, what you saw happening in Bangladesh of late, this is not something which should have surprised people, because we saw the things happening in Kashmir. We saw it happening in 1920s in Malabar, the Mopla genocide. We have seen it happening in parts of Bihar in some time. We have seen this exactly the same thing what happened if you take the global examples too, Israel, Palestine. So this is very much there, and if we still don't realize that there comes a school of thought which says that we want to Islamize the whole of the world. That's the target. You have to take it very seriously. You can't think that it is just plain imagination which they are putting across, because they are working towards it. The target is very clear. People should read the letters what Osama bin Laden wrote to United States of America, what he's trying to say. People should also read about the letters what other terrorists wrote to, like for example, of course right now we have got a subtle relationship with the state of Afghanistan, but till very recent times Taliban's magazine was not writing great things about India.
As early as the 16th century, stories recount Chaitanya amusing his mother by mimicking Eastern Bengali speech. So the cultural mockery was institutionalized. And by the 1860s, they had become stock characters on cultural stage. Dinabandhu Mitra's Sadabar Ekadashi popularized Rama. What was this? I have done everything, worn fashionable clothes, eaten European biscuits, drunk brandy.
Yes,
Yet
what I
I
was
could
speaking
never
about,
become.
young Bengal movement.
Oh, that was this. Okay. Yet I could never become like a true Calcuttan. There's a lot of insecurities coming out.
Yes. Because Calcutta had become the hub of Hindu bashing, while
Right.
all these eastern part, etc., were still very humble, subtle. They were following traditions, etc. But Calcutta, with this young Bengal movement, was completely taken for the ride, where Hinduism exists karta hi nahi tha. It was completely absent. People neither went to the temple nor they practiced tradition. It had become, but all these revolutionaries were very devout. Whether Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose himself was a Devi Bhakt.
Right.
So
And a communist at the same time.
that's a very debatable thing, because like Aurobindo says, Aurobindo calls himself leftist. Because according to Aurobindo, those who oppose the empire were at the left, those who
right.
with the right. That's how the world view was.
We were also fashionably leftists. But we were never uprooted from...
Yes, that's that can only bring you back. Otherwise,
correct.
The moment you get into the student politics of it, then it's...
But in that case, a lot of people disagree with this. When I say that there is a healthier side to... how do I put this? There can be nationalism viewed through different lenses. Bengali being the most prominent one. But even you can view that through your Kannada lens as well, right? Which is what poets like Kuvempu did.
Yeah, oh yes.
So in that sense, was language one of the last standing barriers which could actually protect that Hindu identity and faith in parts of Bengal and East Bengal?
See, language surely would have been one important factor. Because language plays a very important role. Because how do I see it is, you have got language, you have got your clothes, you have got your food, and these are the three things which often constitute your tradition and the religion. So, many things what you practice a tradition in, say, Karnataka, North Karnataka, you may not practice it in South Karnataka.
Yeah.
Same would happen in Gujarat. The moment you go to Kathiawad, the traditions will be very different, and the moment you come to the eastern part, the things will be very different. So this diversity exists because there are different languages, so different. And now, if I want to strip somebody of their religion or tradition, the first thing what I will do, I will slowly talk about their eating habits. You should not eat this. You should not, etc., etc. Second, I will get into the clothing. Third, I will hit on their language.
Yeah.
The moment you remove all these things, you have nothing left in the culture.
Correct.
It's all gone. So when the language would have surely played a very important role that way, because through the language, at times you can connect through the emotions lot much better than, like per se, if you are today in India, but you happen to travel, say, somewhere outside India tomorrow, and you find somebody who is interacting in your language, you will have an immediate connect. And that immediate connect is often the root of a unity. That immediate connects what we make with the people, right? So that's why language plays a very important role there. If language wouldn't have been an important role, perhaps the books wouldn't have been written in specific languages, right? Why translation? The books were also being done during the independence movement. Even though Savarkar's book was written first in Marathi, then later on it was translated into English and circulated, because because English is the language of India, but because people thought that through the English at least more people will be able to read it.
Yeah.
So language is always a unifier for any cause. It can be any language. I'm not saying that English cannot be that language. English also can be that language. But language always drives you through some sort of unifier. It gives you a foundation based on which you can create the building of where you wish to run a movement.
Walk us through the experience, what the women went through specifically, because we have this very succinctly captured by many movies and books in the case of Partition of Punjab. But in the case of Bengal, obviously there have been very violent, very brutal incidents that have happened throughout the history. So where is the average woman placed in this entire episode?
So, and whenever these kind of things happen, when I say these things, I am hinting to, say, the genocides which happened in Calcutta killing or Noakhali, etc. What happened in Punjab, etc. Right? All these things always have women at the receiving end at the max. Like in the Calcutta, we hear that, of course, when Gopal Patha took over, Just before that, there would be slaughterhouses where the naked bodies of the women would be hanging,
Mm.
many mutilated, many in worst of the shapes. Now you can imagine that only somebody inhuman would do this. Is that it speaks of utmost hatred they have for the creed. When I say creed, it is both I am hinting to. One is the Hindu, second she's woman. And there was always an idea of trying to get women in your hold.
Mm.
That's how you really stop the spread of the other religion and you ensure that your religion spreads more.
Mm.
And you see this barbarity right from 7th century. What happened in Sindh? 6 lives were taken. There was they were brutally mutilated, killed, mass raped. Things happened in Sindh. It was very much there. Then, of course, Bappa Rawal avenged it. And whenever we avenged anything, we never reciprocated the same way they did it.
Right.
Right. The days goes ahead. The time of Delhi Sultanate, the life of the women are still not great. It was again horrific. The time of Tughlaq, the 6 lives were taken like en masse. It continued in the Mughal harems were full of the sex slaves, and it continued, and it goes on and on. So somehow this idea of capturing the world through the woman has been very common, including the fact that even used to make the eunuchs out of the men.
Mm.
And so basically the idea was how to not let the population of the other creed increase.
Mm.
And so you see the worst of the repercussion in the Bengal genocide or the Great Calcutta killing, which happened in Noakhali, and it was a very common spectacle to see that you would find a woman naked, lying somewhere in worst of the shape, and you saw the same thing what happened in the post-poll violence in Bengal
Mm.
recently.
So that culture has continued.
That culture has continued, and it is not the problem of the reason, because we saw it happening miles away, thousands of miles away in 7 October in Israel, when they were paraded naked, they were taken, they were paraded in the cars, etc., etc. So this has been the case all throughout, and women were at the worst of the receiving end. And while we talk about any of such genocide which is involving the Islamic fanatics, it has always been there, and I don't see that it is going to change anytime soon until unless we really realize and realize that what the problem Islamic fanaticism has for us.
One of the accusation is that the partition is dominated by the narratives which was put forth by the Bodhrolok. So, tell us about the Bengali intelligence here, both across the border and within West Bengal, where we have successfully somewhat separated ourselves from both the state and dharma. At the same time, even the memory of Bengal itself has somehow been, suppressed. Where beyond, I think, the personal memories, whether it's in literature, whether it's outside, somehow it's failed to make that sort of an impact. So, was there a failure on the part of the public intellectuals, both at the time of the partition and after the partition as well, where they could have actually taken this up and sort of preserve that memory for the future generations to understand?
See, anything what you get to know about other reason which does not belong to you comes from the literature,
Mm.
and literature have been sparse, they have been rare about what happened in the east.
Mm.
Most of the literature which you got were written from a very secular, not only Bhadrlok perspective but also from a very secular perspective.
Yeah.
For example, till very recent time, of course, it's for social media that people know the what Jogendranath Mandal wrote.
Mm.
Jogendranath Mandal was the law minister of Pakistan,
Right. Yeah.
and he stood for the Pakistan movement. and he was initially a deep follower of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And he thought that in the Pakistan, there will be a lot of care given to the Dalits. They will be not facing the oppression as he perceived that they are facing in the India under the Hindus. But what he heard during the Noakhali, because specifically the houses of Dalits were targeted, they were burned down, and mass conversion happened, which he writes very clearly in his resignation letter. And then he makes a comeback to Hindustan. He returns back to India. So now you know about Jogendranath Mandal to some extent. But the houses that were burned down, who were those people? Perhaps we will never know the name as well. Right? Till very recently, we didn't even know that the first law minister of Pakistan was a Hindu.
Yeah.
Jogendranath Mandal. It's just social media which made people aware if people began to post about it.
Correct.
Right. So the atrocities which the Dalits were facing there in Pakistan, or say the East Pakistan, what at extreme level they faced the brute the max, because A, they had less of the resource to protect themselves. B, they were always living in juggies, etc., which is most unprotected and more vulnerable. C, the angle of casteism was very much prevalent in whole of the Muslim world too.
Yeah.
It was not something that it was, which Dr. Ambedkar brings out very strongly in his book Thoughts on Pakistan or Partition of India. And this was one part of the story. But how the things changed once few of them made their way into the Hindustan. Things were not rosy either. Because, like for example, the story which I was telling you, that the children would go door to door begging for that faint, which is the starch water which comes out, so that they can at least eat something. Women are still wearing the clothes which are tethered, as in it's all torn from multiple places, etc. They are just wrapped it around to cover themselves. Then there are people who are dying on the street. Many people who came onto the railway station ever stayed on the railway station because they could never move anywhere else. So there are such instances. Now, do we know such stories? Do we know about the story of any of those survivors who... there was a novelist named, I'm forgetting his full name, Byapari.
We have it, Manoranjan Byapari.
Manoranjan Byapari. So he was somebody who did toll as a rickshaw puller. He, in fact, was worked as a laborer, etc. Later on, he became popular because his literature was well received. But not many such voices could come out, because not everybody is destined to become like him. So there were many stories which were, and as I said in the earlier remarks, that somehow a state was not very happy to welcome the East Bengal people.
Right.
And in fact, recently I was hearing to Kanchanda say that perhaps Nehru was racist. He did not like the black Bengalis coming in, etc. So we don't know the reason. We can have our own speculation, right? But there was something obviously there which was not letting Nehru welcome these people, and we were failing at our moral responsibilities. And for the lack of resources, for the lack of having enough with them as a hereditary or something, they couldn't. They were not the inheritors of some. They had not amassed a lot of wealth, so definitely they could not take care of themselves, and their lives were in worse the shape, and that's the reason. But as the days went ahead, a lot of refugees literally made their life way better. So a lot of so all these areas like Jadavpur, etc. Indeed, where there was some initiative like building Durgapur, etc., to take care of refugees, etc. It did happen. But still, there are many more stories to be told, which couldn't come in light because they were not the Bhadralok. And so that's the reason why you don't know even about the communal angle of the stories to that extent. because for the Bhadralok, still the idea is that it's the Britishers who broke their syncretism. They are more worried about the syncretism being broken. They are not worried about what exactly went wrong. They still, you will see you pick any book on the partition of Bengal, they will talk about the Great Calcutta killing, but they will say that it's the British who broke our syncretism. Bengal was syncretic culture, and that is what makes Bengal different from Punjab. That's where they also went wrong entirely.
If the average Indian outside of Bengal perhaps is not aware of what linkages we had to the modern day Bangladesh, take us through the memory, give us a little glimpse of how common we have, because almost entirely we see Bangladesh as a different entity which has no cultural relations with us today. But yet it's a disaster. It's so unfortunate that the average Indian thinks that it's a separate entity and that we have absolutely nothing to do with those people.
So, first and foremost thing, it was not the Calcutta which had the clay enough where you will grow the paddy. And it's the paddy or the rice, the straws which comes out. That's what we use underneath the kalash which we put in the Durga Puja, right? When we do the kalash sthapna, there is those green grasses are there, etc., and the paddy things are put there. So there's a process in kalash sthapna of Devi Puja. Now, Devi Puja is something which is very prevalent in eastern part, where you go to Uttar Pradesh, you go to Delhi, northern part also, where people observe Navratri for 9 days. Now, where these ideas are coming from, it's coming from east, because that was a place which was full of the paddy fields. Where the rice was grown so much, and in fact, the best of those potters, etc., were also coming from the east. The best of the idol makers of Devi Durga, the tradition, it comes from the east as well. That is East Bengal. So there's a reason why the Devi's idol is made by the earth, the clay. It was about celebrating the nature. It was also about celebrating the Mother Earth, etc. Whatever you see in the Durga Puja is entirely coming from the earth, is entirely from there. And so if one is speaking about doing a Kalasa Sthapna, and if his memory does not goes to those paddy fields or the rice fields, which are very common in East Bengal, it is very much there. The same clay, same kind of mud, same thing which goes there all throughout the house. Of course, the Gangetic plain of Patna, etc., do have that clay, but not for Calcutta. Calcutta relied entirely on the east, forgetting that. Now, while you have these traditional commonality, and like somebody say sitting in Delhi today is observing the Durga Puja the same way, like how somebody would have observed in 1930s in East Bengal. It is not just a coincidence. It's the civilization knot which is tying you. The same Durga Puja tradition would happen even in the west, in the Gujarat. Kalasa Sthapna still happens the same way. There is no different process to it. Come down to the south, wherever Devi would be installed, if the Durga Puja is happening, again the same process will follow. It's again not different. Now, you have got Dhaka with the name of Dhakeshwari Devi. Now, this is the place which gets the name on the name of a Devi. It was just a coincidence, or say the bad coincidence, where the Devis were defied entirely and whatever happened there, right? Suddenly, by becoming a Devi worshippers, they just become an antonym of it, whatever they did there. But whatever they would have done, how can they remove the culture or the civilizational identity of the land? You still have a name coming from the Devi. You still have those the same cultural and civilizational knot which is tying whole of the Hindustan entirely. It can never be erased. Like eating habits also. You go to the east, there's a tradition of cooking in the earthen pots. It's prevalent there in the East Bengal a lot. The food what you eat, the way you cook your fish, etc. in the East is very common. It's no difference whatsoever. So
That's why there is a fight for Hilsa as well.
that's yeah, that's like we can talk about those light things, but this is something very interesting that whatever you observe, even miles away or kilometers away from East Bengal, it is very much there. But it's just that they have forgot to embrace it. They don't want to embrace it at all. Because even the Sonar Bangla, when Rabindranath Tagore wrote, he was talking about East Bengal,
Hmm.
the
Correct.
the
Yeah.
land, the fields, the rivers, the forest, etc. So everything is
But
there.
there's a lot of opposition to the concept of Sonar Bangla in Bangladesh, correct?
Yes, it was.
They're
But
not okay with it. Why? Because it's a Hinduized version
huh,
of.
it's more of a idealization of everything, and they would have problem of anything which seems like a Hinduized version of anything. So they basically have problem with Rabindranath Tagore to start with.
But they
So,
do know that their roots, I mean, the Islamization of Bengal is a recent project in that
so
sense.
you know,
It'll be funny.
this is like
It's
us.
like Pakistan saying Harappa Hamara hai.
That's true, and but if you want to claim your Harappa like Pakistan claims, then they will have to again go back to the Rig Veda.
Hmm.
That's where the thing is. And if somebody wants to, in the East, if they want to embrace the culture, that's fine. But you cannot live with the Stockholm syndrome. You cannot say that whatever happened was right. For example, like we were talking initially, that there are certain section of people who believe that whatever happened to their ancestors, if you narrate the story of the horrific instances of what happened, the people were taken as sex slave, etc. They say that it was great which happened with our ancestors. We could get to the right deen, which is Islam.
Oh, wow.
Where, and these are, I'm not making it up. These are very much said words to me, and they are very happy about it.
So, how is the Bengali identity shaped today? And the average young Bengali, is there like a feeling of belongingness towards each other regions, or that has gone long past?
No, I think we have gone long past to it.
Hmm.
It does not exist anymore because the last set of migration which happened was around 1971,
Hmm.
etc. And or till very recent after 1971. So that generation which has the memories is very old now.
It's also not captured in the in the case of partition of Punjab. Even today, since there are so many movies being made of it, like I've seen like Sunny Deol's movies in Delhi, and it was a different experience. Like it probably wouldn't sell 5 seats in Bangalore, but that pain of partition, even though it's like a half-star rated movie, people go and watch it, and I saw so many, especially like grandparents generation, going there, and they were like crying their hearts out in like a what was that, Gaddar 2? Yeah, Gaddar 2. It's such a horrible movie, but like people were actually like crying over there.
So that's what emotion does to you,
Hmm.
and because people indeed have the memories, last generation, they feel for it, and they in our generation, the people who have empathy for the thing which has happened in the past, they will relate to it. But for most of the people, the crowd which is so vested in the corporate world,
Hmm.
who seldom even care to come out and vote, for them many times these things really don't matter,
Hmm.
and they have really shut the chapter closed in the memories of their ancestors. They don't want to look further at it. But still, the generation which, say for example, from Bangladesh migrated from after 1971 or during 1971, etc., they would be now say around 50 60 70 odd years, so they will have the memories. But the people who are born after that, what says how that the person who migrated would have already established himself to have enough good life, etc. And especially the people who are born after the liberalization of economy,
Hmm.
right after 1990s, when the things began to become better even for the migrants, etc. They were having some better part of their life. They wouldn't even feel what their ancestors would have gone through,
Hmm.
right? Had we not got the liberalization of economy, or perhaps had we been teething the same path of the downgraded economy, perhaps you never know that they could have realized it even more, that what's going wrong. Because at times when you are having a life full of the thorns, the earlier, you always recall that there was a thorn, first thorn with which it started. But if your path suddenly becomes rosy, you tend to forget that 10 steps behind there were lots of thorns.
If Bengal had never been partitioned, how would the Indian subcontinent look today? And what would be the consequences of it?
See, Bengal wouldn't have been partitioned. One is that, of course, India wouldn't have a big border threat, for sure, which is comes from Bangladesh, which is uh, more dangerous because you are somehow very well prepared for Pakistan, but you are not so mentally prepared for Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Like for when Sheikh Hasina was ruling, we were quite lenient about how the things are. We were okay that the borders will not be having an issue. But the governments are dynamic.
Mm.
And in fact, in Islamic states, the governments are even more dynamic.
Correct.
Right?
Mm.
So, when that is the case, had this part been part of India, but again, when you say that had it been part of India, then you have to also juxtapose other case. Had the government been different than what it was? Because had the government remained the same, perhaps you wouldn't have had added, because you saw the negligence what we had towards northeastern part of our country. Even after
Correct.
independence, right?
Yeah.
We seldom cared for them. So maybe that they would have attained the same fate, they would have seen the same fortune, which wouldn't have been so good for them. It might have led to a lot more insurgency. I don't know. It may have been the case worse than Kashmir.
Mm.
It may have occurred.
Mm.
But but logically speaking, we should ideally have had this country as a part of us from geopolitical standpoint, etc. But again, that comes with a precursor that government should have been different, because had the government been same, the things would have been worse.
And there was no exchange of population as well, right? In Punjab, to a large extent, because of the railways, because of it was accessible by land as well.
It was not easy here, and that's why the
But
board.
was there any effort formally by the government of India at that time, or is it because of geography that it was limited that they didn't even bother to exchange population?
So see, what happened is that when 1950s the things went south, as in it really became worse. Then Nehru-Liaquat Pact happened, and they both countries committed that we will not take care of the minorities in our country. So Nehru wanted to ensure that it was more of a lip service that my people will be taken care of, as in Hindus, etc. And but Nehru himself knew that it is never going to happen. You cannot expect that. Say that somebody who has murdered your family entirely, and then you say that, okay, I will let my child live with you, but just ensure that he's taken care of.
Yeah.
It was more like that, what Nehru-Liaquat Pact did to us. So efforts were taken, but they were more like a lip service, and efforts were not taken to ensure that a population exchange happens thoroughly. It never occurred, and so a lot of people kept coming. There was no idea of exchange, and we were not open to the idea of exchange because Nehru was very disheartened to see the Muslims going out, and that's where our first HRD minister also comes into the picture, where or education minister, where he goes to talk to the Muslims and says that you should not go, etc. All those things did happen, right? So Indian state put a lot of efforts to ensure that the Muslims don't go out of India, while it was not the case on the other side.
Right.
So exchange is always about an equilibrium. It is not just
One side.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Aabhas for joining us. Hopefully, this is a subject that we would love to see people like you write books on. We don't have anything, especially for the younger generation, to sort of feel connected to what is now Bangladesh, to understand what went through in those parts at the time of partition, right? So, it's sitting right in front of you.
Thank you so much. And you said it very right. We don't have much literature. We have some good literature, but they are more written from a very secular perspective. And once you secularize the idea of migration, it's a problem. And hope the things get better in terms of literature too.
Thank you so much.